Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Colleen, and I'm here with Jesse. What does your title say? My screen is too small.
I have decided to, because you all got like names, and I'm just plain Jesse. And we got like, Colleen, the agent of chaos, and we have world's worst spy. So why don't I just be the most messy gypsy?
I like it.
Okay.
Jesse the
Why not?
Messy Gypsy. Why
Yes.
not? Why not?
Why not? Let's
I
just
think
do
that's
it.
awesome. Let's.
Yeah.
It is.
I,
Yes. Everybody needs a name. You need a name and a title, and I live in chaos, so.
we
You're
all
not
live in
messy though,
chaos.
because I've been to your house and it's not messy.
No. My whole life is messy. I'm just
Yeah.
stating the fact.
And Birdie, the world's
Yeah.
worst spy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it. But at least I'm still employed, I guess, so I'm not that bad at it.
Well, yeah, Yeah.
I feel like Dirty could be like, Emperor's New Groove when he's Kronk and he's like trying to, sneak away and like dump the Emperor into the whatever
Oh yeah,
he's
sneaking
dumping
through the
into.
city and going,
And he's like,
my got a little theme song going, and everybody's like, you can
yeah.
see him as plain as day, and he's hiding up against the wall, and he's like, there's people walking by and going, what is he doing? What a weirdo!
Do you guys remember there was an actual like a murder movie eons ago, and I can't remember what the whole movie was about, but there was a guy who painted himself to blend into backgrounds so
Uh-huh.
he could get away or attack people. Like it was bizarre. But
Yeah.
see, that's how you could be a spy. You could
There
get a
you go.
suit the same color as the background and then
Huh.
just
Well,
stand like
wouldn't
against
that
the
be,
wall.
yeah, but wouldn't that be like camouflage?
Be like a
Kinda.
chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
camouflage.
guys. Thanks to everybody who's popped in. I think Cam's going to be a little bit late, but we are going to go ahead and get started.
She needs the link. For some reason, she did not get it.
Oh, she didn't get the link. I can do that. I will.
Yeah, she's freaking out.
Okay.
She's like, oh my gosh.
Okay, I'll send it to her. So why don't Dirty Bird or Jesse, why don't you get us started off while I send her the link?
Okay. Ready? Who's doing
Ready.
it? 1, 2, 3. Oh, can't do. Really? Damn it. Why is it always me? Okay. So I guess I'm going to kick it off this time. I'm going to talk to you guys about one of the most frightening dolls ever, in my opinion. It reminds me of like Chucky the doll. And kind of, if you really think about it, this story is almost like Chucky the doll, if you really think about it. Sort of. Also, I want to point out that I have the utmost respect for this doll, so I hope this doll does not come back at me. So I'm going to talk about, of course, Robert the doll.
Yep.
Yes.
Do you have a picture, Robert, or should I try to find one while we're talking?
Do have a picture.
Well, let me find it and you keep talking. Okay. Robert the doll?
Robert the doll.
You've never heard of Robert the doll?
No, because I hate dolls. I purposely don't want to look at them.
Oh, this is a good one.
Ew.
Yes. Again,
okay.
I want to put it out to the universe. Robert the doll. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of reminds me of the male version of the Annabelle doll. Can you guys imagine Robert the doll right now going on a road trip? Yes. But he did. He was
it, right?
exhibited.
Yep.
Yes, that is him. Yes.
Okay.
He gives me chills.
Yeah.
He was hosted at the Atlantic Paranormal Society in Clearwater, Florida, and this was like in 2008. This was the first time that this doll has ever left the museum that he sits now, in 104 years of his existence. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Wow.
He also, like in the 2015 in October, the doll was taken to Las Vegas for the Travel Channel. It was for Mr. Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum. I know for a fact that Zach really wants this doll, but the curators at the museum says no, you may not.
Good.
So
I'm sorry. Good.
Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to point out, see all these notes in the background of
Yeah.
this cage. She'll probably tell you about it later, but I find that really super interesting.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So we're gonna get into this little thing, and the doll originally he belonged to Robert Eugene Otto. He was a world-known artist. He is artist. It was like eccentric, and he also belonged to like the most prominent in the Key West region and family. The doll was reported to be manufactured in the Stiff Company of Germany. He was purchased by Otto's grandfather while on a trip to Germany in 1904. And it was given to the young Otto on his birthday for a gift. So as you can see there in the picture, he has a sailor suit, which is likely an outfit that Otto wore as a child as well. He also has a lot of the old straw. You can see the stitching and his little beady eyes. Little beady
Wow.
eyes. But there's like more of like a sinister backstory to Robert the doll. They claimed that the straw-filled toy was given to Otto by one of the family members that we discussed, or it was given to him by actually one of the young maids that worked into this house, that worked in the house. And according to some legends, she hexed the doll in retaliation. Let me say that again. For some wrongdoing the family did to her. So we know that young Otto, he was very, he loved this doll. And as we know, as when we're kids, we have our own dolls and we carry the dolls with us. And if you really think about it, being kids, we think that this doll, let's say, becomes a part of us, right? And we believe that it's alive. We believe that it's, it is our friend, like an imaginary friend, but in real sense. That makes sense. So that's kind of what happened with this doll with Otto. He named it after himself. He clothed it in his very own clothes. And despite the toy's awkwardly large size, he carried it with him everywhere he went, literally everywhere. He sat at the dining table. His mom and dad fed the doll, like set the table like it was a real human boy, kind of like Pinocchio in a way. And just made him think that they was real. He would have conversations with this doll, and his parents even stated that there were nights where they can hear a different voice in the bedroom while their son was in there playing with the doll, and he would carry on full-on conversations with whoever was in the room with him. And there were times that his parents would, especially the mom, would open the door and say, "Who are you talking to?" And he'd be like, "I'm talking to Robert."
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of creepy to me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with dolls. My granny, the one that we've talked to about in the past, has tons of porcelain dolls. It's kind of creepy. I will say that, but you get used to it after a while.
I don't
Anyway.
know what it is about them that just freaks me out so much. I just can't do them.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know if
kind of
that's
like
because they are
clowns,
just
right?
yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it's an easy place for soul to climb into, you know? I
Uh-huh.
don't ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
So
people really remember is that they would probably term as the unhealthy relationship that Otto developed with this doll. Um, you know, he talked about it in the first person as if he weren't a doll, like Robert was really alive. So I'm curious if people really think that maybe Otto developed a spiritual being to be inside this doll during this time. I wonder what your guys' thoughts are on that. Like, do you feel like
No.
he
Like,
created an imaginary person?
like, I don't know, kind of like a tulpa thing, and just like
Oh, yeah.
thought it was like, he's like, this is real. It's my best friend, and blah 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 blah, and it somehow took on supernatural abilities. But I know because I've heard the story quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I know for a fact that the women in his life did not like that doll.
No. Matter of
They,
fact, they tried to get rid of it many times and it came
yep,
back.
and it kept coming
Ugh.
back.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could. Duh. Let's can't
So
go there.
yeah, so it started kind of like you know, again, his parents also want to note that his parents would hear the little boy wake up screaming, and they would go into the room, and their child was like in the corner with his arms wrapped around his knees, you know, and Robert sitting on the bed, and all the furniture turned upside down. So skeptics may say,
Wow.
well, maybe he's having like a behavioral, you know. But I don't know. If the doll can end up sitting on the bed without assistance, and it's giving like this menacing, glaring look at the child, and your child is
Yeah.
frightened, I'd be like, huh, something's going on. You're going
It's
into the attic.
yeah. Well, yeah. We need to exercise whatever's in this doll. Get exercise the doll from the house. You know,
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
on a vacation. Get in the trunk.
Yep.
Right. Which they have tried, and the doll came back. Interesting enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Man, I would have thrown him off a ship. You know what I mean?
It'd probably come back.
Oh, God.
yeah, one of the other stories though is that I think the owner, I forgot his name already, the guy that owned the doll, he left for somewhere, and they
Yeah.
put him in the upstairs attic and in a trunk, and workers would be working on the house, but they would hear footsteps, little footsteps running up and down the room.
Yeah.
And one of the workers heard it, and he stopped working, and when he looked up in the window, Robert was in the window looking
Yes.
down at the
He was
workers,
a
and
plumber.
he's like, it was a plumber. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some creepy. That's some creepy stuff right there. I'm sorry, but oh
Yeah.
man.
And we talked about like how Otto eventually he did grow up, became a very well-renowned artist, and then he married a lady. She was a very successful pianist. And so when they eventually moved back into the home, his childhood home, also note this doll went everywhere with him, everywhere in his adult life. So it's kind of like the wife
Going
was
out
like,
to dinner
it's
kind
me
of
and the
everywhere?
doll.
Yeah. Out to
He-
dinner
he-
Oh,
everywhere.
okay, there's
Yeah.
some psychological stuff going on there, big time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I understand having the whole whoopee thing for a couple of years where you're dragging around that old ratty blanket, but at some point you
It's
let
like a
it go.
Linus kind of thing, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
you know. Yeah. It's
yeah.
just-
And this started to become kind of creepy when they moved back into the house. And so she says, okay, it's either me and the doll. And so he went ahead and locked Robert the doll in the attic. And in this house, which is very beautiful Victorian home, people would say that they would see Robert in there, and he would be moving, or his head would move, and he would look. So he's completely locked into this.
Well,
you
there's
know.
enough people that have seen stuff and experienced stuff with
Yeah.
this doll that this sounds like it's a very true
Yeah.
haunting. Something is
yeah.
going on here. So we have this comment here that YouTubers named Sam and Colby have a real photo of Robert the doll. and weeks afterwards, Colby came down with cancer.
Yep, and I'm gonna get into that as
Oh,
well.
I'm
There are
sorry.
some
Sorry.
No, it's okay, because
Okay.
there's a lot of things with this doll.
And I got a
Dang
story
it.
from Jack Osborne himself when him and Ozzy visited Robert the doll.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Yes, I watched that when they were doing their tour, and that was.
And you got
I
a
love
mini.
Ozzy. Yeah. And he kept putting him up on the RV that they were traveling in, and he's like, "Get the beep out of here," in Ozzy's voice. I can't do it very well, but who knows what he's saying half of the time.
Wow.
So obviously Otto passed away, and another lady bought this home, and it's called Easton Street is where this home is at. And Otto, he died like in 1974, and his wife died 2 years later after their deaths. Then this lady named Myrtle Reuter bought the house, and she's owned it for about 20 years until the property was sold to the current owners that have it. There's also been notes that this house is actually haunted with Robert the doll in it, because the doll has been moved out of there. It's just the spirit, and whatever spirits are there in the house is still haunting, obviously. In 1994, Myrtle took the doll and said, "I'm going to give it to this museum because I don't want the bad juju anymore."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "I am done with this doll. I have no idea what is going on." I mean, she did know, but she's like, "I don't want it." So the doll was donated to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where it has become a very popular tourist attraction. So the legend, in fact, states that it's 100, and well, it's probably more than that now, but I believe it's like 125, 160. It's between 160 and 120 years, probably a little bit older than that. He is blamed for a lot of mischief. According to legend, the doll has supernatural abilities that allows it to move, and it can change its facial expressions. It can make giggling sounds. And of course, there's all these rumors about Robert the doll. Like some versions claim that a young girl of a Bahamian descent, which is I think around the Jamaican era or around there. Could be, I don't know, that I didn't get into it too much. There's too many legends around Robert the doll. Other stories claim the doll was moved voodoo figurines around the room and was aware of what went on around him. Other legends claim the doll has vanished after a while in both the home before it was moved to this museum. And if you do not get permission, like if you go to this museum and you want to view Robert the doll, you can, but you have to ask permission to take its photo. If you don't, and you're also kind of like not respecting the doll or the legends of it, it has been known to, cause car accidents, broken bones, job loss, divorce, other misfortunes. Visitors have experienced post visiting this misfortune of failing to respect Robert the doll. So, it's
mind blowing to me. So when he was gifted to this museum, he never came back to the house?
No.
No.
Okay. He has been in this museum for quite a while. Other than what I mentioned before, that he's been touring around kind of like the Annabelle doll. And I don't know if there was any misfortunes that happened with people. I'm pretty sure there has been, but not like nailed down. So
that's
wild. That picture that you had up earlier with all the notes, those are all apology letters to Robert the doll after people took a photo of him without asking permission.
Yep.
And
Oh.
one of the famous stories that I heard was that Jack Osborne and Ozzy Osbourne went and visited that, and Jack was all about the supernatural, superstitions, stuff like that. He knew the rules, and he's telling Ozzy all about it, and Ozzy just like poppycock, whatever. And they're
Yeah.
walking past it, and Ozzy gives Robert the old two cheek sneak, and they leave.
Yeah.
They're on the bus, and they are starting to have problems, like right off rip, and they're halfway down the highway,
I was
the interstate,
gonna
and
show this one to people.
and and their
So
and their bus blows a tire, and they have to pull over, and now they're stuck on the side of the road in Florida somewhere. And
yeah, Ozzy was so mad. He was
yeah,
so
and
mad.
he's like, yeah, Jack was like, Dad, what did you do? And he told him, he's like, we got to go back and apologize right now, otherwise this is not going to stop, and it's not going to be, the end is not good. And there's been a few stories. A poor dude did the same thing, took a picture without permission, he got his car stolen, lost his wallet with all his information. He's on vacation in Florida, and it's just bang, 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 bad luck
Oh,
over
Yeah.
and over.
Yeah.
So he's like,
that's insane. Well,
Yeah.
what's amazing to me is like somebody didn't throw this thing into a burn barrel or,
I don't
know,
know if anybody's ever thought about that, or they're just too afraid to even
I would be,
deal.
even
I would be
be afraid
too
to try.
scared to even touch it,
Yeah.
because he'd be like,
Yeah.
you're coming with me. He's like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah. Well,
Next
it's just
thing I
like this
know is I'm
doll.
getting an anvil out
Yeah.
of nowhere dropped on my head as soon as I step off the front porch.
Not everybody can be the coyote, okay?
I know
DB, you can't.
get the coyote.
Yeah. And it's funny enough, because, I mean, it's not funny, but people can buy these little figurines. Right here is what Jack did, with Ozzy to tease him about it. And then they done a doll here of Jack. And so that's kind of a funny little thing. But yeah, it was,
Mm-mm.
yeah. I stop sharing those.
Yeah, that's bananas. So what quite the haunted object to start off the show
Uh-huh.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a huge backstory.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a lot. So, and
Very
they do
cool.
warn you when you go visit Robert the doll, like, you better respect it. You visit at your own risk. And
Wow.
yeah,
Yep.
we're not
And
responsible for anything that happens.
And there's still people that drive by the museum on that road, and every time they drive by it, they have to wave and say, "Hi, Robert." when
Oh,
they drive by.
wow. Quite
Yeah.
the story. So, Cami, what do you have?
So I was going to talk about Annabelle since there's been a lot of recent happenings around her. And then later I was going to talk about Peggy the doll because I've some personal experience with Peggy. So we'll start with Annabelle. So Annabelle the doll, although the movies in the Conjuring universe films, they show her as a porcelain doll, she's actually a Raggedy Ann doll. Her era comes from the 1970s, and back in the 70s, she originally was a gift to a nursing student named Donna. Donna's mother gave her this doll, and at first she thought the doll was adorable. It was a nice little gift. But they soon began to notice a bunch of strange occurrences around the doll. So she would change positions. They would notice that notes were left saying, like, help us. And I guess allegedly, Annabelle would have like drops of blood on her chest and hands, which was super weird. So then they got a medium to come and check out the doll, and they figured out that the doll was inhabited by a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins. So the girls allowed the spirit to stay because they thought that it was just a child. She wasn't dangerous to them, and she wasn't any sort of evil spirit. But however, after that point, it seemed like all the activity around Annabelle then started escalating pretty quickly. They also had a very violent incident with one of their friends named Lou, who I guess was attacked by Annabelle.
Mhm.
At this point, they then had the Warrens come in, and Ed and Lorraine Warren, they then decided that the doll actually wasn't inhabited by a child spirit, but instead, of course, as the Warrens always tend to do, decided it was a demonic spirit that possessed Annabelle instead. So then they ended up taking Annabelle and they placed the doll into their occult museum in Monroe, Connecticut, where she's been ever since. And she's in a specially made glass case that cannot be open at all. They have a warning sign that I'm sure everybody's seen. It says, "Warning, positively do not open." And interestingly enough, since the Warrens have died, the museum went into ownership of, I believe, their son-in-law, maybe. And he's now been taking Annabelle kind of like on a cross-country tour lately. And it seems like every little city that she's visited, something catastrophic has happened. So
Wow.
I first caught wind of her traveling around. So I was like, wait, why are we moving Annabelle around?
Yeah.
She first went into a prison and she was there for a little bit. And it's almost like they're doing these pop-up museums. And the most recent place that she's been was in New Orleans, and which is kind of crazy to think about because when I think of New Orleans, I kind of think about how it's almost like this epicenter for a lot of activity. I hear a bunch about, their cemeteries being haunted, all the buildings on, what's that street called? The
Bourbon
main,
Street.
yeah. So on Bourbon Street,
Mhm.
where they have all the historic buildings, they tend to have a lot of reported activities there. So while she was there, one of the famous plantations ended up catching on fire. And it just seems like everywhere that she's been traveling, something terrible has been happening. So I thought it'd
Wow.
be
Think,
to touch base about it.
do you think Ed and Lorraine are like turning in their freaking graves right now? Like, I told you guys, I told you,
Right?
do not take her out of this house.
There's
Well,
a sign that said, there's a big sign that says, absolutely do not pull out of a case. Leave it alone.
Somebody
well,
has to be pulling it out of the case. You can't
the,
tell me they're not.
the justification that Tony has, I think his name's Tony Sapiro, something like that.
Tony Soprano.
Soprano?
not, not the guy. No, so I guess the owner's justification is the Warrens used to do it all the time. They used to take a bunch of their haunted items and travel around the United States with them because they believed that not everybody had the opportunity to travel to them. So they're like, it's fine. We'll just take her on another world tour, I guess.
I don't if you think it's inhabited by a demon, why would you take it on a world tour?
Maybe
Well,
I
he's
mean,
and
why
testing it.
to some of the
Oh,
There's a new
most
movie coming out. That's why they're doing it.
active places.
yeah. Yeah, that
Uh,
okay.
I want to tell you guys a frightening thing too, and
Okay.
it's kind of like a PTSD coming back to me.
Okay.
I think I had one of these Raggedy Ann dolls when I was younger.
My
I
sister
did.
did.
I don't know
It
what
was
happened to
it
it.
was the only doll I liked. Yeah.
I think the
But
original
this doll,
Annabelle is a lot creepier than the porcelain version, for
We had,
sure.
yeah.
we had Raggedy Ann and Andy when we were
Yeah, I
kids.
did too. I did too. And I
Was,
loved her. I mean, that
was
yeah.
this a boy version of the doll?
Yeah.
There
Yes.
was a Raggedy Andy. Yeah. There was a little
Yep.
boy.
I didn't
Yep.
know that.
Yep. Okay. Birdie, what you got?
Well, since we're going on the haunted object thing, I wanted to do one on the Dybbuk box,
Oh
Okay.
which sounds pretty familiar. according to what I was looking at, this box was purchased from a yard sale from a lawyer in Oregon, by the name of Kevin Manis. Or no, Kevin Manis bought this box. Here's the story about the Dybbuk box. Completely made up.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it only caught traction because whatever this guy did, it was pure genius in that he made a complete backstory and a tragic one, consisting of the events in World War II and these carvings that he put in this wine box. That it was like, I think it could have been in Hebrew or something like that.
Is this the actual one that you're talking about?
It
I'm
could
not
be. I
sure.
mean, there's so many.
There's so many of them now, copycats.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he used tragic events of the past, a little bit of what you see there, a little bit of Hebrew, and some just really creative thinking, and he passed it off as a haunted object, and people ate it up. So much so that they made a movie about it. And I
Really?
think, yep, it's called The Possession.
Okay.
And then eventually, once that movie came out, it caught even more traction until one Zach Baggins bought one and put it in his museum. And when people visit the museum, they claim to have really adverse effects from even looking at this box.
Kim, did you have any adverse reaction when you seen that box?
No. So I've been to the museum 4 times now. I love the museum. So my first time I was drawn to the museum because he has a mirror in there. And I would keep dreaming about this particular mirror. And that's why I went to the museum. The first time I didn't really have anything, but there was a lady there and she did have some reactions to it. But again, I feel like sometimes when you're in those spaces where there's so many like objects or like the idea that you're expected to have some sort of reaction, somebody is always going to have one. So
Yeah. It's really easy to psych yourself into having a paranormal experience. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you,
Yeah,
it's
what is
like a
it?
psychological.
Yeah, what is it called? It's like somebody starts a rumor and then it's so believable that another person believes it, and then eventually, if it's like a small town, everybody believes this rumor, and now it's true because so and so saw it happen, which never
Never
happened.
happened. Right. I know it's crazy. So if this guy made up the whole story and he admits he made up the whole story, but people are having a reaction to possibly, that's like it's a psychological thing. It's like they want to believe that there's something in there that's going to have an effect. It's kind of interesting.
Well, apparently Post Malone, he got a hold of it. I guess he touched it. And if you don't know who Post Malone is, he's
Okay.
a singer, rapper, something like that. I forget.
And he owns
Apparently
a
he had
chicken
a, like
restaurant.
he had a like a week-long string of bad luck after touching this box. But that could be just anything, especially if it's made up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
the human psyche. I think
it
a lot
is.
of
It
it
is.
is
We're so suggestible.
Mass psychosis, that's what it's called.
Well, yeah, and we're very suggestible. So it's like somebody can plant that little seed in your brain and it starts gnawing away, and it's just it's kind of crazy. So, I have one that I looked up that I thought was pretty interesting, and this one is, it's really hard for me to do all of this at once, so I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so let me get if the image will show up. So, and now this image won't show up, so I'm gonna show you the actual castle. Castle. There is it's a castle. It's in America, but it's centered around the chairs in this castle. So
Oh.
these are the chairs of Belcourt Castle, and there are different chairs within this castle that are allegedly haunted. There's chairs that are in the Gothic ballroom, and those chairs apparently, if you sit in these chairs, you feel this like you're being forcibly removed from the chairs. People have felt that response. So whatever's there doesn't want you to sit in these chairs. There are other chairs within the castle, and a couple of them are that says they're made out of salt. I don't understand that. Made out of salt? I don't get it. They're called, yeah. So in the ballroom, or maybe those are maybe a type of chair. I've never heard of a salt chair before. So I'm like, what are they made out of? I couldn't find an image of these things. So are they made out of salt, or this just the name of the designer? They're salt chairs. I'm not sure. But people who say when you sit in them, you immediately feel cold, very cold, and sick. So they leave the chairs pretty quickly because they don't like the way that they feel. And it's pretty interesting that the castle itself was built in 1894 for Oliver Belmont. And now it's like a place for, like it's a wedding venue. They have
Oh.
big fancy weddings in this place and everything else. But I hope that nobody's at the wedding is sitting in any of these chairs, because that would suck, you know?
Well,
The
especially
bride
if they're
gets
like
launched out
wasted.
of the chair. Huh?
Especially if they're like wasted. They're like, "Why'd you kick me out of the chair? I did it." And then there's a fight, and then the bride comes up and hits people in the head with her bouquet. It's a disaster. Disaster.
We're sweating at her.
All right. Jesse, did you have another one for us?
I think Cammie had another one.
Cammie
I
has
want her
another
to tell
one?
me about her
Okay.
personal experience.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I have two of them, and one of them is, I don't know. So I had one about Peggy the doll, and she's also another doll in Zach Bagans' possession. So she is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, childlike doll. She came from the United Kingdom, and she was first discovered by a lady named Jane Harris, who was a paranormal investigator in the UK. She received this doll from its previous owner originally, and the previous owner is the one that claimed that it would cause people who were in its space nightmares, illnesses, depression, and cause them hallucinations. She is said to trigger intense physical and emotional reactions out of people. So more than 80 people have claimed to have chest pains, nausea, severe headaches, just by looking at her photo or video. One woman, I guess, had suffered a heart attack after looking at an image of the doll online. And viewers have reported seeing visions of mental institutions and sensing overwhelming dread when they look at her. They have had quite a few EVP sessions with her, along with Zach and the previous owner, Jane. They would communicate with whatever spirit was inside of Peggy. And she is believed to be inhabited by a woman who was born in 1946 and she died of a chest.
Me too.
Could have put a warning up there.
I guess we should have. Warning.
Some believe that she may be a conduit for multiple spirits instead of just one. So they think that multiple spirits come through this doll. So when you do see her in the museum, they do give you a list of rules. So most importantly, you need to say hi to Peggy, and you need to make sure that you say goodbye to Peggy. And when you go in there, they do have an EVP that's constantly running. So you can ask her, you could try to ask her questions. She's not always the most vocal, but the few times that I've seen her, she has said things. And you are also advised that you need to ask permission to take pictures of her. However, Zach does not allow anyone to have any of their electronic devices on when you are in the museum, so it doesn't interfere with any of his equipment, since he does have the museum. Well, one, it's on severe lockdown, and two, he's running EVPs and other investigative equipment constantly. So my experiences with Peggy. My first experience with Peggy, so my ex-husband, he also wasn't one who believed in the paranormal or anything like that. He was pretty skeptical. So we go to the museum. He didn't say hi to Peggy, and he didn't say goodbye to Peggy. So we were the last ones kind of leaving out of her room. And I go, hey, don't forget to say goodbye. And he goes, I'm not saying goodbye to her. And then through her EVP box,
Sorry.
you just hear die. And we were like, oh, that's weird. It was fine. We get into an Uber to go back to Fremont Street, and our Uber driver almost gets into a car accident twice. And I was like, that's weird. So that was my first experience with Peggy, my most recent experience with Peggy. And I'm going to say she's racist. So we're in there with Peggy. She's kind of talking a little bit, but not a whole bunch. So my husband's African American, and our best friend, he's also African American, and she wasn't saying anything. And the tour guide was like, Peggy, do you want to say anything at all? Like, you have all these people here. And it's like quiet. They're the only African Americans in the room. And then she says the N word. And we just like everyone
No.
in the room, they look at my husband and our friend.
So I have a question. Do you think
Huh.
that these things are staged? Like, there could be microphones hidden
Like
and
someone
people
in
in
the
control rooms that are watching stuff and doing this. You know what I'm saying?
it, possibly,
Is
I
that
don't
possible?
know, but
I
we
just
just feel like,
Yeah,
gonna-
but
that's terrible.
yeah, but you would think that a museum as famous as his and the hot water he's in
No.
now, why would you drop a bomb like that in a room full of people?
because he could blame it on Peggy.
See, that's the thing. I mean, and I think a
But
lot of his stuff is staged. I think a lot of his props are staged. I think that whole museum is probably pretty well set up. And you don't, and there's people in a control room who are messing with
Yeah.
people that are coming through. It's pretty easy to do stuff like that.
Do you think that everything that he's brought into that museum has brought him more into the darker kind of things? Like, I think that also solidifies some of his, how he is now, like more darker, like more going towards demonology, and everything's got demons
Well,
now, because when I first watched him at the beginning, I was pretty interested in, watching him. Of course, I'm partial to Aaron. I've always been.
Zach is very different than Zach now.
Yeah, very much so.
I've just never found him a credible person.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just have a hard time with anything Zach. And it's not, jealous of his fame. No, it's not that at all, because I wouldn't want his lifestyle at all. It's, I watched the very first episode he did, And I'm like, that I never wanted to see anything else. It was enough for me to go, this is can't do it, man. I just didn't find him credible. Now a lot of people do, and that's great. I'm just not one of them. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes you get what you ask for.
Yeah.
And if he likes these dark things and these dark stories, I mean, they're interesting, but I don't want those objects in my life.
Yeah.
They're interesting to hear about and talk about and see, but I don't want them in my life. And he apparently does. Well, it's a moneymaker for him. So
Yeah.
it's all
It's
about
like you're
money.
putting everything all like a melting pot in that museum. And so, yeah, it's interesting.
And think about all the energy that you've brought into one
Mhm.
location. That's not good.
Yeah, it's
Especially if these things are true.
Is haunted. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And a comment from
yeah.
someone here.
Well,
Yeah.
that whole museum. As soon as said he was building a museum, I'm like, oh, goody. So you're putting an ecto containment unit in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And when Doomsday finally happens and it blows up,
Well,
you're gonna have
We're gonna have Slimers all over the place.
We're gonna have Stay Puft Marshmallow Man stomping down Fremont Street.
Yeah. Did you have another object, Bertie?
Yeah, I got one called, I think it's called Busby's Stoop Chair.
Busby's Stoop Chair?
Yeah. BUSBY Stoop Chair, otherwise known as the Dead Man's Chair. And this is an oak chair that was supposedly caused the murderer, Thomas Busby, before his execution by hanging in 1702 in North Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. Now, before all this went down, him and his father-in-law, I think he pronounces his name Autie, Autie. Him and his father-in-law were running a coin counterfeiting business at this time, and they got into an argument about the business, and I think his father-in-law was sitting in that chair. He kills him. He's like, get out of my chair. They got in a fight, and he's like, get out of my chair. And he's like, no. So he kills him. And then eventually he either cursed it on his way to prison, or he cursed it right before he was hung, by way of being gibbeted. And you look that up, that's not a fun way to go. But apparently gibbeted.
Okay.
It's a makeshift hanging pole.
Oh.
And its whole purpose is for people who come by can see the condemned hanging from an arm.
Wow.
And yeah, nasty way to go. But apparently quite a few people have sat in the chair thinking nothing's going to happen and passed away later on. Locals claim that during the Second World War, Canadian airmen from the nearby base went to the pub where it was at, sat in the chair, and never returned from their bombing missions. 1970, some fatal accidents were linked to the chair. In 78, the chair, because the owner finally got tired of all this misfortune, hung it with wire to the ceiling in the pub so nobody could sit in the chair ever again.
Wow.
Well, so you're saying that's not a chair that we want to sit in?
No.
So is it still there, just hanging now? Or
I think they got it. Oh, the owner of the pub finally gave it to the Thirsk Museum in 1978.
So Bonnie and Clyde, he was executed in Texas, right? And they old Sparky the chair is in the Texas Prison Museum, and you can actually sit in it, the chair, and it's got some pretty heavy energy when you walk around the corner and you feel it before you see it. It's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty wild. So it's amazing that these objects can hang on to this energy for so long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and what
Colleen, I have
kind
a
of
question
energy?
for you.
Yeah.
Did your mom, knowing her abilities and everything, did she ever feel any kind of particular object in her life that made her feel that
Um,
way?
there was a painting in the house that someone
Mhm.
painted of my father
Oh wow.
that really, really bothered her. And I don't remember now that I remember where the painting hung in the dining room. It was my dad in the cockpit of an airplane with like his World War II goggles and helmet on and a scarf. And it was a really cool picture. It was taken from a picture. Somebody painted it of a picture of my dad,
Hmm.
but the eyes followed you everywhere. I hated that painting. My mother hated that painting. I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't know if my mom had a ceremonial burn after they got divorced. I don't know. But it was that painting really, really bothered her. And it did
Yeah.
me as well. I never liked it. When I went into the dining room, we had a big round, it was from a spool, a table made from a big spool, and it was 12 feet across. It was huge because this dining room is massive and they couldn't afford a dining room table and chairs to fill the space. So my
Hmm.
dad found the spool. They disassembled it, brought it in, or sanded it, stained it, and then took it apart, brought it in the house, put it back together, and we had this huge table. It sat like
Oh,
16 people. It's pretty
that
cool.
was probably really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I would purposely walk around so I didn't have to see the painting on the wall. And I was thinking about this silly painting like 2 weeks ago. The eyes. So I don't know
Yeah.
whatever happened to it. I never saw it in my dad's place. He probably didn't like it either after they got divorced. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
objects.
It probably got yeeted somewhere in there. You're moving out of the house and there's a dumpster nearby, and your mom probably
Yeah.
went like, I don't know where it went.
I
Lost
don't,
in the move.
what painting, Bob? I don't know where it went. So mom had that. There weren't that many objects that but she had more of that like ability of psychometry to pick up an
Hmm.
object to know about the person, but she never really talked about things being haunted other than just I remember her just hating that picture. Maybe she hated it because it was a bad piece of art. I don't know. I was too little to remember the artistic ability. I remember his eyes. Didn't
Yeah.
like that.
And you're like,
So,
yeah, no, I'm good.
yeah. So I do have I have and speaking of paintings, there was 2 paintings that I looked at, and a lot of people know about the Crying Boy painting, and it's
Mhm.
got a very interesting, history because of some of the people who so this is the painting, and I just love the painting. It's really, really pretty
Eh,
painting, but
Mhm.
heartbreaking
it
to
was in
me.
1950s. There were like 50,000 copies of this thing made. But it was really interesting because so many buildings that contained this particular painting, which when you consider 50,000 paintings in 50,000 paintings in or prints in the UK, the UK is not that big. But there seemed to be a lot of buildings that burned down with this painting or print in it, in
Hmm.
which the print or the painting didn't have any burn marks on it. That's interesting.
Those bananas.
That
Yeah.
is bananas. So, there was a firefighter who said he had been to let me see if I can find it. He said he had been to the scene of 15 different fires, 15 different homes that were completely destroyed by fire, and in all 15 homes, the only thing not destroyed was the painting or the print of that child.
Oh,
Now, who
That's
knows? That's
that's
bananas.
nuts. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um
So that
There
painting
was
was
a
popular that year.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. They don't know if the artist was known to paint children in really poor circumstances, and they don't
Mhm.
know if somehow this painting ended up being cursed by somebody because who knows? It's pretty interesting. I don't know if the curse still goes on. I guess that kind of tabloid The Sun in
Oh yeah.
England, they they gathered up like a whole bunch of stories that people turned him, but people make up stories all the time, so you don't know. But even I guess in 1985, the story kind of came to light, and that's when they went back and this firefighter came forward. If that's true, that all of those homes burned, and the picture was never like unscathed, laying there in the ashes. So I don't
That,
know.
that reminds me of the painting out of Ghostbusters 2, Vigo the Carpathian.
Oh yeah.
You just
Yeah.
imagine 50,000 of those things hanging up in homes all across England.
Yeah, exactly. And Mudlover asked, why were there so many structure fires with that painting? Exactly. Like what? I don't know. It's 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 bananas. So
It's kind of like a curse or something like that, from what
it
I was
is.
understanding. Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
I think if you put enough intention into an object, you can change you can change to the energy into an object.
Yeah.
I think that's, what we believe we manifest kind of thing. And I think if you put a lot of dark energy into something, you stare at, I don't know, your Kleenex box every day. I hate you, and you put maybe you can make that haunted. Who knows? I don't know, but it's pretty fascinating, isn't it?
Man, if I can only put energy in the winning lotto numbers of my
Oh, yeah.
lottery ticket,
Or
Okay,
just
see.
a
this is
job that lands in our lap that we absolutely love to do and can't wait to go to every day and get paid an exorbitant amount of money so that we can help all of our friends and do all these wonderful things for people. Wouldn't that be incredible?
that would be sitting at home playing Call of Duty.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, Mad Max said, "Buy a loaf of bread and get a picture of this boy." Maybe that's how they distributed so many, right? Who
Maybe.
knows? It could be. You all right, Jess?
Yeah, my cat.
Oh,
Everybody, Odie has made his presence known.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, cats are definitely a part of this podcast and our show, our channel
Yeah.
for sure. All of you guys post your kitty cats and yeah.
Here.
Yeah, Tubcat wanted to come down and hang out, and I'm like, I'm about to record an episode, and I know exactly what's going to happen. Like, we're going to hit record, and you're going to start purring up a storm.
Well, that's okay. He can be on the show.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Tubcat.
All right,
I
maybe
love
next
the
time.
faces of Tubcat.
Tubcat. Yeah, your Tubcat is quite the star. All of your kitty cats are stars. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it, haunted objects. I wonder if anybody in the audience have ever bought anything. I know that I've gone to like yard sales and thrift stores and stuff like that, antique stores, and have purposely walked away from something because I didn't like the energy. Can't
Yeah.
tell you why, just didn't like the energy. But it could be the building in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Main Street Antiques.
I've always
Oh,
wondered
yeah.
that too. It's like, my mom. Well, when my two nieces were growing up, one of her favorite things to do was to go to the thrift store and
Mhm.
buy toys because they're cheap and kids don't know what price tags are yet.
Right.
So they've got a bunch of toys, and she keeps bringing them home. I'm like, God, I hope one of these things aren't cursed, because that would be our luck. And if
They
that
are.
does happen, I'm like, next time you go thrift store shopping, you're taking you're
Oh.
taking a can of salt with you and throwing it on anything you want to buy.
So Mud Lover won't buy mirrors secondhand. I've bought a lot of mirrors secondhand, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have really a problem with mirrors. What I won't do is set them up to face each other. I won't do that because
Yeah.
we've had that happen on an investigation and it went a little bonkers.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, thanks
That-
everybody for joining us. I mean, we're at 8:00 already. Mhm.
Holy henna. This was a great episode.
This was a
Enjoyable.
good one.
Liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, Danielle says she doesn't do thrift stores or estate sales because of the energy goulash that happens in the places. I like them because not everything is negative. I go in, sometimes it's grandma's favorite piece and you can feel the love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I like that kind of stuff.
I got to
Or
tell
the
you,
evil spirit in the porcelain doll.
Yeah, no.
I got to tell you about my friend's doll that his dad got that somebody gifted him. And
Was it a clown doll?
I swear his dad would go to garage sales, estate sales, yard sales, and he find stuff and bring it home. And I don't know if he knew it or not, but he would find objects and bring them home, and then stuff would start to happen.
Yeah, I know. But
Well,
yeah. Anyway, if any one of you four here, three, or all of you people there and that, nobody bring me a doll. I can't. It'd get no. It's going in the trash
it's
can
like
or
a
going to be
clown
burned.
doll.
Bring Colleen all
Oh
the
my
dolls.
Stat.
God. I can't. No. All
Porcelain
right.
doll.
Can't do them, man. They're just terrible. All right, guys.
I just thought of the worst. I just thought of the most evil idea ever, and then
Yeah.
no, I changed my mind because
I will kill you. Yes, I
He
said
doesn't
that on
wanna
the
die
air.
today.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Have a good week. We're going to be at an investigation on Sunday. We'll be back for the Thin Line. Are we doing Thin Line Monday?
I think we're taking a break. I thought.
I thought we are. We are. That's
Because
right.
it's Memorial
Holiday.
weekend.
It's
Yeah.
the holiday.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody,
but
please don't drink and drive on Memorial Weekend. Please
No.
be safe. We are
Be safe.
entering the deadliest days of summer. Let's not make
Yeah.
it any more than we need it.
No. But we will be back on Wednesday for our. So we're going to stream the investigation live when we're over there in Brno. So we will be streaming it here. And then we are going to be back on Wednesday for our paranormal
Speaking of
and
spirits.
tarot and psychic mediums. So we'll see you all. And and next week, big news, right? Next week, Mad Max and Mudlover are joining us
yay!
as regulars on our show. Isn't that
I'm
great?
so excited.
I'm so excited too. I'm so excited. It's going to be great.
This is going to be
It will
full
be
of
regulars.
shenanigans.
It will be. So the chaos will start. So we're
As
very
it
happy. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. You guys stay safe. Bye.
Bye.